Hello and welcome back to Suspended Fanimation. I'm your host, Dennis Bitholkis, and this is Legion, Season 4, Episode 8, Chapter 27. And this is it. We're done. We're over with. Sorry, I was laughing there at the beginning, but Pepper just decided that she was going to go over by the door stop on the back of the door and boing and hit that before the podcast started, just as I was hitting it going live. And it made me laugh just because that was the reason why. And all I have to say about that is, damn, man, that's all I'm going to say about this last episode of Legion. And yes, I almost did burn my finger there because it's a very small little fucking lighter, but encore on that fucker. Yeah, my God. Now I understand that even some of you that are really big fans of Legion and stuff like that could have taken a look at this last episode and gone, that was it. I don't know about you guys, but for me, this was a good ending. I mean, it wasn't like over the top. It wasn't mediocre. It was a good ending. It was bittersweet. Exactly. Penn Farm Girl. I agree with you on that. And it was something that, I don't know. It could have gone either way on it. Yeah, exactly. It makes you feel hopeful. So yeah, exactly. So before I start, let me get some business out of the way. If you like what you see here, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. You can hit the dislike button. I just asked you to go down in the comment section. Tell me what it is you don't like. Give me some constructive criticism. If you also want to see when I'm going to be on live again next, you can hit the bell down below. And you can, if you've already hit the bell, don't hit it again. It will unclick it. You can go into the bell settings and get as little or as many notifications as you want. It's still a 50-50 chance that you will get notified by YouTube. That's just the way they act. You know, if you want to see when I'm actually going to be live, you can go to my website, suspendedfanimation.com, see the schedule up there. You can also go to Facebook and see the schedule up there as well, because I have it mirrored on there. I have a Twitter, I have an Instagram, and I also have a Patreon, but I do not have any tiers set up on the Patreon as of yet. So, also going on right now. So, when this is a video here, in this video, leave a comment down below in the comment section. That will put you in the running for first place prize is the Legion pin. This is from last year's Comic-Con that I got these. This is the David pin. That's first place prize. Second place prize is the Sid pin. There you go. And you know, all you have to do is basically put in a comment, one entry per person. Yeah, if you put in 50 comments, you're still only going to get one entry. So I'm going to put them in a hat next week, next Monday, and I'll pick the winner then at probably around 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I have those details inside the what this is about video here. So, yeah. Yes, 50 comments will keep me entertained. That is true, but just don't do, you know, really stupid comments. That's all I'm going to say. So, what else do you guys want to talk about? Well, no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Yes, I will keep the trolls out, Joe. I will not put the troll. Come on, the Archie Bunker one was kind of funny. I had to throw that one in just for fun. I was never going to give it to that person, but I threw it in. It actually randomizes things. The bigger data set you have, the more random your data, you know, your randomization becomes. I believe that's what the whole case is. So anyway, spoiler alert. I am going to spoil the shit out of this episode. If you've not watched the episode, go and watch it. Come on back. This will be a video, and then you can commiserate with the rest of us. Thank you, Viking Bitch, for the paddle. And yeah, you know what? I couldn't have hoped. You know, I really didn't want this series to end, but I'm glad it ended the way it did. And this is the way you want a final season to end. It actually didn't waste any time. It was only 8 episodes long, but still, it didn't waste any time. It felt right for some reason. It really did. That's all I'm gonna say. I really think it. You know, I don't know. I'm still at a loss for words on some things. You got my finale in your hope. You got your hope in my finale. I think Noah didn't commit. Is that what you're saying? Huh. I liked it. I mean, I really did. I'm probably gonna have some more feelings about it because I'm gonna watch it again tonight after I'm done here with you guys. You know, and after I take Pepper on her much deserved walk, since she's been looking at it. So yeah. I so let's get started. Why don't we just do that? Because otherwise I'm going to espouse all over the place and all over the screen. And yes, that was a double entendre for those of you at home. Um, we have some very existential words about what the end is as we are, and they're going over. The opening actually looked like a Massengale commercial, quite honestly, and from the 80s, if you guys remember those Massengale commercials. But yeah, some very existential words about what the end is, what it means, what we are, you know, what it means to exist, if you will, and what the end actually means. And then it fades away to David's life, and we see David's life as a you know, a baby, a child, a teen, a young adult, and then we start seeing him as we saw him within the series from season 1 in the, you know, psych ward, and then of course as we see him going along in his life. And then David starts narrating the lessons in time travel, and he's narrating the last chapter of this. And he ends up pulling a fish out of his ear. He's with Xavier in the astral plane, and at first he's trying to pull something out of his ear, and he pulls out a goldfish, and he kind of looks at it for a second. He tosses it to the ground, and then he pulls out this ball of light, and he lets it drop on a chain, and it becomes a mace. And then he tells Charles, "It's your turn." And Charles, out of his eye, pulls a glowing bullet, and he puts this glowing bullet in a gun. And they said, "Okay, you know, we're ready," pretty much. And one of the things David says as he's narrating this lessons in time travel, he says, "If we don't believe in change, then we don't believe in time." Which I thought was kind of interesting. You know, I thought about it for a second. I'm like, it actually made me pause my notes for a second. I'm like, yeah, I guess you could say that. I mean, there's a lot of songs about, you know, time and change and all that kind of stuff that we have going on in there and what it means to be human. But again, this is existential as we go into this. So David and Charles end up entering Farouk's chamber. And who do they bump into? But David's Farouk, the one that is in our present, of course, and of course the past Farouk as well. And you know, past Farouk actually taunts David and goes, "Oh, so you're the little victim," and wow, you know, I've been attacked, all this kind of stuff. And David disappears and then reappears floating over that Farouk, hits him with the mace and takes him. And that's when present Farouk looks at Charles and goes, "Well, I guess we drew dance cards and we're dance partners," is what happens. And Charles draws his gun and fires at Farouk. So we see Sid running down the stairs and time skipping as the time eaters are chasing her. And we see Carrie trying to fight them. And of course, she is not getting anywhere because every time she swings her sword, the time eaters stop time and move, stop time and move, stop time and move. And Sid says, "We need to escape the house. We need to get the hell out of here." And they've regrouped. So it's Charlotte, the baby, her, the Carries. And just as they're going to try and escape the house, they all of a sudden materialize in the basement. And it's kind of jarring at first. And they're like, "Ah, shit, you know, how are we going to get out of this?" kind of thing. And Carrie is shaking Carrie, and she goes, "You got to help us. What the hell's going on, Carrie? What do we do?" And he says, I don't know. My brain is spaghetti. I don't know what's going on. And finally, she's like, you need to help us. And he says, I've got it. He goes, these beings actually eat time. What would they do if someone had double the amount of time? It would confuse them. And that's when he says, we need to join together one last time. And that's what they do, is they join together. And now, since they've both lived apart from each other, outside of each other at this point, they both have different times, temporal timelines, if you will. So joined together, it's two timelines in one, and it confuses the time eaters just enough so that Carrie with her sword can actually start taking them down, and they can't freeze her. And Charlotte just looks at him and says, you're gods. And, Sid's like, no, not even close. Yeah. So it's, she thinks that the madness is coming upon her, and it's not. There's all kinds of things that are happening, in her mind. And I'm still not convinced that Charlotte is not a mutant as well. We never really get that in this ending, but I'm pretty sure that Charlotte is a mutant as well, but we just never see what it is. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to mention Switch, in the meantime, is also fairly injured, and she is laying in a bed, and she's lost a shitload of teeth at this point and looks pretty bad. So David says, don't worry about it. I'll fix this. I can fix this, kind of thing. So David tells Farouk that his mistake is thinking that the fight is one-on-one, when really it's against all of us, and we all hate you. You're a monster. And he has Farouk inside the room with all the doors, and the Davids start coming out of the doors, and Farouk just starts dispelling them as they're coming out, until finally there's enough Davids coming out where they overwhelm him and take him down. Present day Farouk, in the meantime, is laying in a white astral plane that Charles has brought him into, and he's on the ground grabbing his stomach where he's been shot, and he's writhing on the ground, and then all of a sudden he starts pulling out a red handkerchief, and he says he's very disappointed in Charles. Consider that they're in a realm where anything that can imagine can be made real. And he says, I'm very disappointed in you. And he gets up and he goes, but I have a solution. And he pulls out some champagne and pops the cork on it. Carrie, in the meantime, is growing older as she's fighting the time eaters, and Carrie inside of her is asking what's going on. She goes, don't worry about it. I've got this. It's just a touch of arthritis. And she keeps fighting as it's going on, but she's getting older as this is happening. David, in the meantime, gets restrained within his own mind. Farouk puts him in a straitjacket and sends him back into his mind. And Farouk says the reason why he wasn't going to win is that deep down, he's still just a baby and he's not loved. He was given away, and he doesn't deserve love. And David says, I'm a good person. I do deserve love. And Farouk says, no, you don't. No, you don't deserve it. And this is when David finally kind of gives up for a second and cries out like a baby. He actually literally cries out like a baby. And he sits there for a moment, and then he starts to sing Mother, Do You Think They'll Drop the Bomb, which is a old 60s song. And he's floating through memories of his mother holding him as a baby as he's singing this. And then Charlotte ends up coming in and doing a duet with him and singing about, how she's always going to take care of him. And, we see the time eaters, at one point attacking the basement still, like a frozen scene of Sid mid-fire with her shotgun. And Charlotte is actually still moving, able to move in the, Gabrielle, thank you, not Charlotte. I don't know why I kept saying Charlotte on that one. Thanks, Ryan Knox. Yeah, Charlotte was, from Mr. Robot. That's the reason why. So yes, Gabrielle. Yeah, Mother is a Pink Floyd song. Thank you, from the wall. And 79, that's right. God, I swear to God, this is the reason why trying to do some research while I'm taking down notes at the same time doesn't work at all. That's why I have you guys here. So yeah, 79, Mother, Pink Floyd, The Wall, and they're doing a duet on this, and she's basically telling him that she's always going to look after him, that she's going to, look out for him, and that he's loved. And he finally, we see all kinds of things. We see Carrie swinging her sword around. We see all the Davids around dancing. And then I know, really, I got a name wrong. That's fine. I got all kinds of stuff wrong. And we see the Davids actually clawing at him at one point and, pulling him down. And David finally realizes that he's loved by his mother. He breaks free of his bonds and tosses Farouk aside. And Farouk is face down on the ground. And he tells him it's time for him to die. And he starts grinding his face into the ground so hard that we actually hear cracking. Switch, in the meantime, is in bed, and everything around her begins to shake, and the house starts to crack down the middle, and the time meters are coming for her. And so she jumps into the time hallway. And she is a lot older at this point and spits out a whole mouthful of teeth. And then she sees that the time meters have come for her and they're coming closer. And she says, "I surrender to you," is what she says, and puts on her headphones and lays back. And as she lays back and closes her eyes, a human hand touches her face, and we find out it's her father. And her father says that she's finally learned the true nature of time travel, the true nature of time, that it's an ocean, not a river, and that not one person can control this, of course. And he awakens her, and she's young again, and her wisdom teeth have grown in. She's gotten rid of her baby teeth, and so all her wisdom teeth have come in at this point. So we have Charles and Farouk are having a drink. And Farouk tells him that, he loves David, that he's lived through him, felt everything through him, thought through him. Every thought that David thought was his thought as well. And he learned through him. And he tells Charles that he did not come here to defeat David, but to aid in his quest. And Charles says, I got a proposition for you at this point. Yeah. As Farouk says, he feels he's old enough now where he feels discord. He actually says it in a different language. It means something else in that language, of course, a little bit different, but it is discord. And we see Carrie and Carrie, they're fighting, and they're talking to each other. And Carrie is saying that he does not want to die. And Carrie says, it's a good death to go out this way, to go out fighting for something, and to keep it up. That they're, it's a little bit of arthritis still that they have going on, but to keep it up. So Switch's father ends up telling her that the time hallway is their native home. And she goes, "Well, what's going on? Where's your screen?" And he goes, "I don't need the screen now." He goes, "This is who I am." And he goes, "This is who you are as well." He goes, "You do not need your mortal form." And he points to the bed, and actually she sees her body there. And he says, "We're fourth dimensional beings." He goes, "I'm not, really father, but we call ourselves father and daughter." Yeah. And he goes, "I would like to call you daughter." And he tells her that he wants to take her with him, of course, to another doorway. And she goes, "Wait, there's something I have to do first." So David is killing Farouk. I mean, just literally killing him, choking him out. And Charles and Farouk show up. And David tries to stop, the present day Farouk from stopping him. And Charles actually stops him from doing that, kind of blasts him aside, and then grabs David and takes him to the astral plane, the white zone, if you will, the white space. And he tells him that he made a deal with Farouk, that they both have a right to exist. and that the war that David is fighting is actually his own fault, that he wasn't there for him, that he loves him, he wants to be his father, he wants to look out for him and make things right, of course. And they hug and they disappear. So Farouk, in the meantime, is talking to past Farouk, and he realizes how arrogant he is and says, was I really that bitter when I was your age, when I was you? And he says, I've got something to show you. And he gives him some glasses and he goes, see what I've learned. And past Farouk takes the glasses, puts them on, and sees everything that David had lived, everything David had learned, everything that Farouk lived through. And he says, I'm sorry. I didn't realize, I'm sorry. And he thanks him too. Carrie, in the meantime, has grown pretty gray and old, and she is crawling. She crawls behind Sid, and Sid has run out of shells at this point, and says, "Stay behind me." As she's getting ready to swing the shotgun. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to mention this too. Switch's father uses a dog whistle in order to call off the time eaters, like dogs, because that's pretty much all they are. They're essentially wild animals, essentially, and but can be trained. And who shows up at Switch with the dog whistle, and she calls off the time eaters. And she tells them that the universe recognizes that they existed, that that they are loved. Everything that they have done has been noticed and is not in vain. She says the David that was has changed, and Sydney Barrett will change as well. And the new Sydney Barrett will be glorious, is what she says. And, we have, Sid says, how do you know this? And she says, well, I'm time, is what Switch says. I know, I see all. And she tells Sid that she has time for one last thing. And she hugs her and disappears. So Carrie, in the meantime, is sitting on the ground and goes, what the hell just happened? And Sid says, I think we saved the world. So Farouk asks David, when he comes back, the past Farouk says, what will he do now? And David says, be a baby, grow up, be a boy, and, grow up from there. And Farouk says, well, when you grow up, come and see me. We will rule the world. And David says, nah, I don't think so. So Switch, in the meantime, is back with her father and says she's ready to go and goes through the doorway with her father. Sid says goodbye to the aged Carrie and says that she looks distinguished and looks wise, as she puts it. Carrie says she looks distinguished, and Sid said she looks wise. And we see that Carrie and Carrie are both split again, and now she's older than him by just a little bit. And now they're brother and sister. Yeah. So Charles arrives home to his wife and David, and she tells him that the world makes no sense without him in it. And he says, it makes no sense without her in it as well. And David is upstairs with his friends, is what she says. And he says, the time for violence and bloodshed's over with. I think I'll become a teacher. And they're going to raise David together. So this, I don't know if this is the beginning of something they can use for the MCU or not, but it would make sense if they could. I mean, because now we have an entirely different timeline. And considering with what happened in Avengers Endgame with different timelines, I think we can do this. Yes. So Sid is standing over baby David's crib, and David walks up and he says, are you surprised to see me? And she goes, no, Switch told me, told me about you. And he apologizes to her and says, you know what, I bet you're going to be extraordinary without me in your life. And she says, yeah, I will be. And she says, well, what happens now? He goes, now we're just going to fade away into the ether, and everything will be as it was. And he says, I didn't think you would help me. And she goes, I didn't help you, I helped him. And she tells David to be a good boy. They fade out, and we're left with baby David, and that's how it ends. Yeah, pretty damn good. That's all I can say. Robert M. Without the time meters, I'm not sure why Sid and the Loudermilks would be erased. I thought that was what the time meters' job was. No, the time meters are opportunistic. They are actually, as Switch had said earlier, the time meters are usually stuck in the time between time. And they are destructive, is what they are. They aren't benevolent. They are not forces of nature. They're actually more destructive than anything else. And so them being there was a bit more out of the ordinary. They weren't supposed to be there. So that wasn't what their job was. And you're not sure why Sid and the Loudermilks would be erased. It's because time has been reset now from that time, from the, I guess, the 50s. And now that David is going to be raised by his parents. They are the trained dogs of the four-dimensional beings. Yes, exactly. The guard dogs of time. Where is the giant pig? Will it survive the reboot? I don't know. But someone's been watching a lot of Pink, or listening to a lot of Pink Floyd, is what's been going on. So obviously I haven't listened to Pink Floyd in a while because I know I'd heard the song before and I couldn't remember where it was from. Jerry Cavella. I love the Professor X and David team up, and I love when she's messing with the time monsters. That scene was sick, and she's like, your god's just about. I hate that Carrie gets old, but you see David was loved. Ryan Knox, if nothing is wrong, then everything is boring. Yeah. Let's see what else. I was afraid Switch was turning into a time meter. I didn't see that coming. I just knew that she was getting ready to die. That's all. So let's see what else we got going on. A towel and a babblefish is all you knew in hitchhiking. Yeah. Let's see. I'm just going back a little further to see what this was. Apple Crow, but we did have a scene that was talking about feelings in hallways in the episode, and that was just very touching and amazing. Yeah. Okay, so we did have a lot of talking about feelings in hallways, but this is the way you do it well and sparingly. Exactly. So not every fucking episode and 3 or 5 times an episode. Bean and David was supposed to change him, but once he left for a good while, he was still evil. I see. I still don't understand. I mean, because we had set up Farouk in season 2 as an evil person. So what was the Shadow King all about? What was his persona, the fat man persona, if you will? What was that all about then? Was that just for fear? And then why was he using it? If Farouk is not changed, or Farouk has changed, why would he? So that part isn't really, sussed out, I guess you could say. Ryan Knox, if Farouk was really good, if he really changed, he would have realized how evil he was and realized that he is a bad person. He deserves pain and death. True. What else do we have here? I'm looking down a little bit. Okay, Legionnaires, as AC calls us in the fucking Quailites. Good night. Good night, movie for Nebby. Yeah, it definitely needs to be rewatched. I agree with you, Viking bitch. Movie for Nebby says, I'm with AC. Expected a little more. I'm happy with most of the episode. But now that we can binge and do commentaries with Dennis on Patreon, I don't know. Again, I have to sit down at some point in time and find a pocket universe, like I said, in order to have more time in order to do stuff. So maybe Legion is ending so they can bring us Farouk and Xavier, time travel mutant finding. It's actually a buddy cop movie, Farouk and Xavier together again. Farouk always wants control over David. I don't know so much about that, Joe. I don't think Farouk always wants control over David. Yeah, and that's the other thing too. I agree with you, Ryan Knox. Farouk killed Amy. He out and out killed Amy in order to bring Lenny into being. That was fucking evil. And to say that, I learned something and that I was trying to help David all along by killing his sister, by bringing Lenny into being again. I don't understand that part. That's the part I don't understand. I mean, does he know all along that this whole thing is going to be wiped out time-wise? And I mean, is Amy his biological sister, or is Amy just his adopted? Oh, Amy was his adopted sister. That's right. So there we go. Because he had been put up for adoption. I answered my own question. Rewatching season 2 and just saw the episode where Amy dies and the multiverse that scars Farouk caused are too deep and too fresh. Yeah, exactly. Before he kills Amy, she asks her what he is doing. He replies, finding the sculpture in the stone. Oh. Yeah, still, he's remaking her. That's what he was doing. He was remaking her so that Lenny could fit into that body. Yeah, there was still nothing good about that. That was nothing but an evil intention is what that was. That was something to hurt David as much as possible. And so yeah, there's still some stuff that I don't think was answered properly now thinking back on it. I mean, granted, this is a beautiful season, but there's some stuff that doesn't make sense. If I bet you when I start watching this from season 1 to season 3 all the way through, whenever again I have some time to do that I'm going to see the inconsistencies in there. Yes, Farouk did win. He lived, exactly. But Amy gets to live again in another FX series. Well, she gets to live again in another timeline, since this timeline has now been erased. Interesting. But still a good episode. It's a really good episode. I was expecting a bigger musical number than what we got out of that. I mean, granted, it was still a good musical number. I just wanted something a little bit bigger, musical number wise. And honestly, I could have used 2 more episodes out of the season. Easily 2 more episodes out of the season. Or 5 more episodes out of the season. Or 10 more. Or another season is really what I could have used. But then again, I'm just being greedy at this point. But this was a reset. Those that died by the actions of David and Farouk will live again. Amy will live again because Farouk won't need to hurt David. True. But so we're saying then that by the time he's on the airship and everything that he did, he finally learned that he loved David and that now he wanted to help him. So Ryan Knox says, what about Lenny? She's doomed to her despair. Her change comes with her child, which she will never have in the new timeline. Well, she's also dead and going to be reborn, Ryan. So will Lenny... So Lenny's never going to meet David because David never gets adopted into Amy's family. And was Lenny ever real? I thought she was created out of David's mind. No, Lenny was real. It's just, yeah, and they used to get high together. That's the whole thing. There's a lot of things that are still tenuous as to what was real and what isn't, though. Yes, David did give her the child. Exactly. But in her rebirth, she will suffer again and have no redeeming qualities. Really? I mean, I don't know how much of it was her proximity to David or if it was just her own destructive qualities, Ryan. That's again, it's an existential, quandary, I guess you could say. Without him in her life, does he influence her to become a drug addict and stuff like that? Or without him in her life, does she just have a normal life? Yes, her grandmother made her an alcoholic and an addict when she was 10. Okay. That's right. I remember her talking about that. So, yeah, she doesn't. Yeah. So, Lenny is the one that gets screwed out of all of this. Exactly. But she won't know it because, she just becomes an alcoholic and a drug addict when she's 10 and continues going down that spiral, which is really kind of fucked up. She will never know David, so Lenny's life will change. Well, see, that was the other thing because we saw them as, teenagers, I guess you could say, and young adults getting high at David's house. So they knew each other, of course, before Clockworks. Yeah. Oliver promised me he would kill Farouk. That's right. Oliver did promise that he would kill Farouk, and he didn't. So there is all of that as well. But Oliver is outside of time, right? Because he is in the astral plane. He and Melanie are outside of time. Excuse me. Lenny may repeat her life and may fuck up again, but she will never know David. Yeah. What is 1 + 1? 2 incorrect. Yeah. It's existentialism. I got where Noah was going with this. He wanted to do an existential superhero, super villain, I guess you could say. So there wasn't some stuff that he answered. There was some things that he kind of glossed over, if you will. But you have to admit, the presentation was pretty fucking spot on. It's like any good magic act, you don't question what happened. If it's really good and you see the end result, goes, oh, wow, that's cool. That made it sparkle. But then when you think back on it, you're like, hey, wait a minute. There was this, and this. Yeah. So that's pretty much what this show is. Of course, and the greater meaning behind it was phenomenal. People can change. Yeah, exactly. It's people can change that. Given enough time, people can change. And there's no way to do a show like this and have a tidy ending. I agree with you, Tom. There really is no way to do a tidy ending with this. And I agree with you, Viking Bitch. It's not perfect, but it didn't leave me feeling like Game of Thrones did, And yeah, exactly, Applecrow. I agree with you. It's going to be nitpicky to kind of delve into it. There is ways you can nitpick into the show and say, oh, well, this is bad, this is bad. Overall, I like the damn show, man. I like it. It's great. It is art. It is it's beautiful, actually, this show. It really is. I can understand people not getting into it and not enjoying it. I can totally see that as well. You either are totally into it or totally not into it. There's no middle ground on this whatsoever. And there's no right or wrong about that. Was Amy really good for David? She was always drugging David, and I think he killed his sister for David in a twisted way. Yeah, James, he did kill her for David. And also he's bringing Lenny back as well for David. But he didn't see it that way. Well, that's the way he saw it. The way David saw it was that Farouk killed his sister. And it was an evil thing to do. He did it just because he could. Yeah. Ryan Knox, I didn't want a tidy ending. I wanted a very messy ending. Filthy, if you will. Stained by the blood and brains of that tapeworm. I don't know if this was a tidy ending either, Ryan, because it's all starts all over again from all over at the beginning, and it's all left up to chance again. Different ending. Yeah, of course it's going to be a different ending than in the comics, Joe. It's, they're going to take liberties with this. And I did love, I agree with you, Jasper. I did love seeing seasons 1 and 2 flash by in Farouk's glasses and around him as a kaleidoscope. That was actually really cool. You get everything just all coming through leading up to the end. So Ryan Knox, Amy and David didn't have perfect relationship, but everything Amy did to David, she did out of love for him and ignorance about his condition. Yeah, and he hurt the ones that he loved is what it was as well. Not meaning to, but he did anyway. Apple Crow says, wait, since this ending resets the show, aren't we getting a season 4? But maybe they're making another season 1 through 3 set. It's just crazy enough. No, I don't think that's going to happen, Apple Crow. And besides that, Noah's going to be working on some other stuff. After he's done, I think Fargo, the next season of Fargo is his last season of TV. And I think he's moving straight into movies. And don't be surprised if you hear that he is going to be the one that's either directing the Fantastic Four movie or the Doctor Doom movie or an X-Men movie. One of those three. He is in constant talks with Marvel. And Kevin Feige. I know Jeff Loeb likes poking his head in. I actually just read an interview with Jeff Loeb about Marvel TV, and he talks about Noah Hawley Hawley, there we go. Noah Hawley, that's what it is. I had to think about that for a second. He talks about Noah Hawley briefly and about Legion. He says Legion is a great show, that Noah told us exactly what he wanted to do from beginning to end, and we pretty much just let him do what he was going to do. And that was a collaboration between Marvel Studios and Fox. Jeff Loeb had nothing to do with it, and that's why it was good. Everything that has Jeff Loeb's fingerprints on it sucks balls. That's all I can say. What Amy did to David was understandable. Not, yeah, I mean, she didn't understand his condition at all. She didn't realize that he was a mutant, that he had telekinetic powers, and so she was basically thinking that he was unstable, mentally unstable, and was trying to help him. What about the animated stuff, Joe Greer? If he keeps his fingers out of the animated stuff, I think it can be good. Again, take a look at what happened with Legion. Without him in it, he had his name on this, but he had nothing to do with it. From what I understand with the Hulu stuff, Disney is involved in it. He is not. He has his name on it as an executive producer, but he's got nothing to do with it. He has no fingers in that pie. They are pushing him to the side. So Fahey is the one that is dealing with the stuff that's happening on Hulu, Disney Plus, and yeah. So anything Disney Plus and Hulu, those things are all going through Fahey. Fahey hates Ike Perlmutter with a passion. Jeff Loeb works for Ike Perlmutter. So what is Fahey going to do? He is going to minimize Jeff Loeb as much as possible, which is a good thing. And yeah, I agree with you, Joe. I would like to see a Doctor Doom movie before I see a Fantastic Four movie, to tell you the truth. I know it sounds chicken and the egg, but Doctor Doom, I think, especially the way Noah has been talking about it, And his script would be phenomenal, I think, and that would bring the Fantastic Four into being, and that would work. Long Halloween's DC, yeah. And it's Batman. They already did it on Gotham. So, yeah, completely different thing. So with that said, Legion was good because it was not Marvel. Marvel has no real moral conflicts, no struggle of the human heart. Legion makes you think. Marvel, no, Marvel isn't mind-numbing. There is struggle. There are moral conflicts within Marvel. I don't agree with your statement there, Ryan, but there we go. So if you like what you see here, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Also, if you're still on the fence about joining up, you're going to see a video up in this area that's actually going to take a video from my vast video library that matches the algorithms of all the stuff that you've been watching. It will collate those, pull a video out, and plop it up there for you. Up here is going to be Preacher. That's going to be popping up there for you. We're going to agree to disagree, Ryan, on that one. So that's all I can say on that. 28 watching and only 12 likes. Hit that like button. Exactly, Pen. Yeah. Exactly. Yes, I know I screwed up at the beginning and I fucked up the names of one of the characters and then also who the song was by. That's what happens when I do a reaction right after watching it and a little bit discombobulated and not getting to do any kind of research whatsoever on it. Yeah, Robert, I agree. It was really good talking to everybody with this, with this series, getting to do this last season of Legion. This is again what it's all about, is getting to talk about this stuff and even right after it happens kind of thing, and getting to work it out, if you will, and talk about what we thought about it, if everyone liked it, if everyone disliked it, if people like certain parts of it, things like that. And that's what this is all about. I mean, it's fun to talk about this stuff. It's fun to theorize about some of this stuff. And can we get a third meh button? Yeah, thanks, Ejar. Your check's in the mail. Legion brought us all together. Exactly. We are Legion. That's what it is. Yeah, good shows are very few, Joe. I agree with you. Or they just get canceled by stars because, it doesn't fit some kind of demographic that they're hoping for. I'm sorry, I'm still bitter about that, and I'm going to be bitter about it for quite a while. Yes, we are Legion. And remember, comment in the comments section. Prize 1, the David button. Prize number 2 for second place is the Sid button. These are both from Comic-Con 2018. And remember, it's open to U.S. residents only because I can't afford the international shipping rates on that stuff. And once I mention your name, once I pull the name out of the hat, you got 48 hours to send me an email and let me know what your address is. Otherwise, I move on to the next person. So I'm going to actually pull 4 names out. And after those 4 names, if the first 2 don't answer, then it moves over to the next 2. There we go. And yes, right. See what Pen Farm Girl did. Check out the schedule on the website, suspendedfanimation.com. That's right. I need this to talk about my feelings after each episode of Legion. This show makes me emotional. Yeah, I mean, I too, Viking bitch. Yes, it's a very emotional show. It actually it hits you sometimes. It's kind of weird. It's very visceral. It's and I know that he's designed it this way, that Noah has thought this stuff through and kind of designed it this way. And it's not just the visuals, but it's also the sound. It's the colors as well. And what if there are only 3 people? What in the world, Joe? If there's only 3 people here in the chat, that would have been fine. I would have talked about this just as much because this show is actually that awesome. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. But money? What about money, Joe? And one troll. Noah's an evil genius. He pulls all my feelings out. Yeah, exactly. I agree. I know, Joe Greer. Oh, it's getting up there. It's not 400 quite yet. It's 338 last I checked. It's growing slowly but surely, but that's fine. You know, that's always good. Applecrow says, I say it every week about, but oh my God, what happens when you bother to plot things out and craft a story? Exactly. And I mean, again, villain. If you're going to have someone who's going to be a villain, make sure your villain is actually someone that you care about. I mean, someone that's good. Someone, I mean, not good in the good evil kind of thing, but someone who is well written. And that's actually what makes this work. I mean, Krypton, say what you will about Krypton, it only works when the villains are there, when you have Brainiac, when you have Zod, when you have Doomsday, stuff like that. That's the only way that show works, quite honestly. Every time you go to the main characters are okay, but they're kind of boring. It's the villains that make that show. No, sorry, Ryan. I haven't read Game of Thrones books. So I've got books laying around that I haven't even read as of yet. Again, I haven't had the time, quite honestly. So that's Benedict from Last Action Hero is one of the best villains ever. No, he wasn't. Thanks, Applecrow. Farouk was scary. Yeah, Farouk was scary. And Farouk was unpredictable. And to have conflicting feelings for a supervillain. Exactly. Oh, that's how pro wrestling operates. I used to watch pro wrestling back in the 80s, Joe, but yeah, Joe Greer, excuse me. I want to differentiate my Joes that I got here. Yeah, exactly. You in pro wrestling, that's exactly what they do is you build up your villain so that your hero can rise. That's what the whole thing's all about. It's a story as old as time, as they say. You want to make sure that your villain is good enough so that your hero can rise to the occasion and rise above it so that they'll be good enough to beat the villain. Farouk was neither light nor dark. He's just chaos. Yes, exactly it. And David he was becoming evil, but now he's back to being neutral as well. And it even put Charles on the right path, or the path that we know, because Charles at the time was on a different path. We don't know where Charles went to in all this time. We know that the X-Men existed at some point, but we don't know what happened to them. And yeah, so I mean that whole thing was never touched upon either. And it didn't need to be. That's the whole thing. Once you reset everything, we see that it's going back to comic book lore. Starting season 3 of Preacher Tonight should be caught up by next week. All right. Yeah, there's only 3 episodes. No. Oh, we're in season 4. That's right. Sorry. Well, I hate to draw this love fest to a close, but it is Monday. Yes, I agree with you, Pen. Same thing with me. Yeah, I agree with you. If the contest only has 3 people, Joe, then those 3 people are then, I pull names out of the hat until I'm done. And you know what? If I only get 1 person, then I will do another drawing, I guess, something like that. Good night, Viking bitch. Yeah. We'll see how it works. So, all right. The little dog is giving me the eyeball that she wants to go. So that's usually the one that actually dictates what I do most of the time. So I'm going to say thank you, everybody who joined me in the chat. Thank you for joining me for this great series. And yeah, I mean, hopefully we get some more from him. I mean, some more comic book stuff. I want more comic book stuff from Noah. I really do. Exactly. Farewell, Legion. Farewell, Sid. Farewell, David. Au revoir. Yeah, I can't say that, Ryan. I would, yeah. I can't even speak in English for the most part. So, and it was blue. Exactly. Because it's always blue. And yeah. Great stuff. That's all I can say. And thank you, Baking 101. Yeah, join me not tomorrow, but Wednesday night, Krypton. We have the season finale of that going on as well for season 2. Thursday is The Boys. Friday, I don't have anything going on at the moment. And Saturday is Saturday Morning Blast Off. Sunday is Preacher. And let me grab my book real quick. I left it over here, as a matter of fact. Here it is. That way I can tell you exactly what I'm doing, because I don't remember what I'm doing either. There we go. So Preachers. So next week, Preacher is going to be on Sunday. Wednesday is going to be Woo Assassins from Netflix. I'm going to be watching the first half of that season. I'll be recovering that first half of the season. Thursdays, of course, are still going to be The Boys. And Saturday is going to be SBO, Saturday Morning Blast Off. And actually, the week of the 1st of September is when everything starts back up again. We have Preacher, we have The Dark Crystal coming up, Carnival Row, The Boys, Titans. Yeah, it's going to be a full plate on that one as well. As you can see, my little map of what I've got mapped out there. So with that said, I'm going to let you guys go. Like I said before, thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody in the chat. Thank you if you made it this far in the video as well. And remember, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. If you're still on the fence, take a look at the video, see if you like it, then hit the subscribe button. And I will see you guys all on Wednesday for Krypton. Don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. Otherwise, you may end up just fading out into existence and restarting the timeline all over again. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.